Holy shit, this thing changes direction. No wallow and weight transfer. Oh shit!
Welcome to Downshift, everyone. My name is Paulo, and we had a very special week this week.
Yes, my name is Matt, and we have spent the week with the BMW M3 competition. It's got anniversary roundels, it's incredibly fast, and we did take it around track, so stay tuned. But today, we're gonna cover the best and the rest. Let's get into it. Now, the first thing we're going to talk about, and I do feel a little bit cliche dinging BMW on steering once again, but to be honest, it's really the only place that I can reasonably ding the car objectively. It's the only thing that I was like, this kind of brings me down a little bit. Now, on the road, casually driving, light to light, it's fine. It's totally not bad. It's easily dailyable. But on the track and in track mode specifically, it's crazy light, and you have great rubber on the car, and you have a front end that reacts, let me tell you, and the chassis is super tight and disciplined, and what it ends up feeling is a bit twitchy. This thing is twitchy as f***. And I guess we're going to put this on the con side of the video because you can't get the competition with a stick. You can get an M3 with a manual transmission, but you have to go down to the base car. If you want to go to the competition to get the all-wheel drive, you are going to have the ZF automatic. And at risk of losing my enthusiast card, I will say, if it's me and my money, I think I'm going to go with the ZF because we did have the M2 with the manual, and I just didn't love it. And I think with a car that's this dynamic and this sharp and this on the edge and on its toes, I think the ZF, I would get more out of the experience that way. Paulo, what do you think?
Yeah, I would say if I was like a purist, I'd probably get the manual, but like for me going to the track, I really want to just focus on my apexes and hitting some of that stuff. I don't want to also focus on manually shifting myself.
Yeah, so I guess what I would say is it's a con, but not for me personally, or you.
Yes.
And the last thing we're going to talk about on the con side is just kind of a weird limitation that I found while I was on the website playing with specs. And it's the fact that if you want this fjord blue interior, you can't get it on the first stage with the executive package, which would get you the head-up display. Now, if you scroll down the page on BMW's website and you want a fjord blue interior, you can go for the full merino leather, which is a little bit extra money. And that can get the executive package, which would get you a head-up display and I think a couple other things. But I also think we do have the full merino here. This is very nice leather, and we still don't have the head-up display. So maybe a box wasn't ticked, but just something weird that I did find while I was playing on the website. But switching gears and talking about all the best things about this M3, the first thing we have to talk about, of course, and how could we not with competition on the back, is that it is unbelievably sharp. This car just doesn't miss, aside from the steering. But you do have the S58 under the hood, 3-liter straight six turbocharged M division built, 503 horsepower, 479 pound-feet of torque, 0 to 60 in under 3.5 seconds in the real world with this, of course, xDrive. The 8-speed transmission is brilliant. The carbon ceramics are perfect on track. The chassis is so tight, and the car just feels so on its toes and ready to go. But the place that I can demonstrate that best is of course back on the track. So let's head to Road America and shake this car down on their Motorplex, set a time, and see how this thing does. Holy shit, this thing changes direction. No wallow and weight transfer. Oh shit! Oh my god! What a machine! Here we go. Here's a rhythm. Oh, the downhill sucks. I got my blinker on. How in the world have I done that? Carbon ceramics, I love you. Jesus Christ. .39 seconds, and yes, that is the fastest time that we have ever had a car go around that course. It is over a full second quicker than the X6M competition that we had the other week, and it's over 2 seconds faster than the Lexus RCF Track Edition. That is a big delta, 2 seconds on a 60-second lap. This thing is proper quick. And I do want to talk about practicality, and in this case I want to talk about cargo practicality specifically, because this is kind of one of the brilliant things about the M3. It's the adding of daily practicality and livability to a incredibly high performance car. You don't have power opening tailgate, I think that's fine, you know, weight reduction in race car, but here you look at the trunk, it says it's 13 cubic feet of space. But this feels way bigger than that. It's incredibly deep that way. It's nice and deep this way. There's not really any storage under here. The battery is under this floor here, but you do have a little cavern there, a little netted cubby back here, and you can, of course, fold the back seats from back here, but it does just feel really big and really practical. But you had an experience going up to the lake and doing a lake weekend with this?
So we were able to pack several bags in here, and I was also making a Costco return. 2 27-inch curved monitors. We were able to fit all of that back here. So it is just extremely practical.
And I am gonna check out the rear seats because just like the trunk, you also have practicality in the sense of having a usable back seat for 6-footers. I've got my hat on, I'm not hitting my nub. You'll notice that we don't have the sunroof. You can option a sunroof, but if you go with the carbon roof, you don't get it. You have plenty of headspace though for a 6-footer. I even have knee room here. You do have a dedicated climate zone back here, climate vents, 2 USB-Cs. You are gonna lose out on map pockets even if you don't go for the carbon buckets. I think it's gonna be fine, but you do get the amazing fjord blue interior. And here, on this white spec, this white on blue, I think it looks fantastic. $2,550, looks very good. You're not gonna get a cup holder in your center console here. So if you do want a cup, you're gonna have to make do with the door pockets back here, but completely practical and livable, even for adults in the backseat of the M3. And this one may be a little controversial, but we are gonna talk about styling on the positive side of the video. And a lot of that, at least for me, comes down to this individual frozen brilliant white. It looks fantastic. I want to get my car PPF coated in a matte texture because then it would look like this, and I think it would look really good. Now, obviously, if I stand here, the car looks great.
I was just about to say, we should have started from the back if we were going to talk about this on the positive side.
The best angle of the car is definitely the back. Now, the frozen brilliant white, I think it is like a $3,600 option. I think it's worth it, to be honest. You do get the anniversary roundels. Competition cars get the black or the shadow line package as standard. You've also got smoked out or darkened headlight casings with the lasers. These are a $1,000 option, and they're absolutely what you should get. I wish I had these on my car. They're so much better. You get a little tiny splitter down here, but of course it does look pretty aggressive up the front. Got a little bit of indentation there. And we'll talk about the competition wheels. We've seen these for a number of years, but they do look the business. Anniversary roundels, gold calipers for the carbon ceramic brakes only. These are also 19 inches up here. They're 20 inches in the back, and these are 275 width tires.
Yes.
Yeah, 275 width tires, PS4S. We have a non-functional little fang here on the front grille, as you might expect from a performance car. Gloss black side sill, gloss black for your wing mirrors, M style of course, gloss black window treatments, and then carbon fiber roof. I do have to say, I thought I wouldn't care about a carbon fiber roof, but I really, really like this.
Well, I really like that too, and you also get a lot more headroom on the interior. Surprisingly, a lot more headroom.
You do, that's correct. And then this is, I think, one of the cool things. They didn't change the door for the M3 versus the M340, so you get this really aggressive flare out where the rear hip starts to come out across these 285 width tires back here. Again, 20-inch wheels, gold brake calipers for the carbon ceramics, but man, get a shot of this back 3/4 because this is my favorite angle of the car. Yeah. It looks fantastic.
This is the bread and butter right here.
Exaggerated black diffuser with your quad M tips, blacked out details for your X-Drive and your M3, subtle little spoiler back here with the little cutout in the middle. I just love the look. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I agree with everything that you said. I wish I could change the grille to the previous generation.
Yes.
But this rear hip flare just does it for me. And then also I really love the quad exhaust with this diffuser. It looks incredible. Yeah.
But overall, yeah, if I can get past the grille, which I'm warming to, it's been normalized, I really like the look of this car.
I will say the previous gen looked better, but the grille is kind of growing on you as you live with it.
Yes. And I do want to talk about the interior. We're going to start with the seats because they are the fjord blue that we talked about in the rear. Few grand for it, I think it's probably worth it because they do look very good. They're also the full merino. We did double check on the spec sheet. So you could be able to add the executive package in, which would then get you the heated steering wheel and a head-up display. But these seats themselves, I think, are the better seat over the carbon buckets because they're still wildly comfortable. You have plenty of bolstering. They still light up, but you can also get cooled seat. You get heated and cooled seat on these seats. I also really like the fact that you do get the carbon fiber across the entire dash and center console. They don't skimp on the carbon fiber. You even have carbon fiber all over your wheel with your M1 and 2 buttons, and even on your shift paddles. They're rubberized red on the back because you gotta have grip when you're shifting at the limit. But I just really think it's a nice interior. Leather wrapped M stitch knob, or shift knob with M embossments, M stitching, and it just works really, really well. You sit in here, everything's ergonomic. They have moved some of your climate stuff up into the screen for the facelift year. It hasn't really bothered me because it kind of stays at this bottom screen all the time, so you can just get into it fairly quickly. But you do have the new ambient lighting, so you get coral, which is my favorite color. And overall, it's incredibly well built. Nothing creaks, nothing rattles. It's just a nice interior, even in something this stiff, to not have anything shake loose. It's pretty impressive. And what goes in tandem with a nice interior is the nice technology as the cherry on top. Now, I did mention that this doesn't have the executive package. You could get it. That would get you a head-up display, which we've talked about in a number of iDrive 8 cars. It's really customizable, but so is your center digital instrument cluster. You've got different content from your setup to your turbo pressure, tire temperatures, torque readouts, G meters. I mean, the whole thing is here for you.
And if you change different M mode, so
if you go into sport, you get a totally different look, graduating. And if you go into track, it's going to black this out. I'm not going to do it because it's going to take a second to go, but that'll black out. This will show you your tire temperatures and a bunch of track-oriented stuff. So all the technology is very good. Of course, you got wireless wireless charger in your center console here, and then here in your center screen, again, it's iDrive 8, so all of the software is very good. We'll go to the native system here. Very snappy, loads of information. You got your adaptive content. I just like this. So I've got brakes, no brakes. Like, that's a level of detail that they didn't need to do, but they did. Wireless Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. We'll throw it into reverse. You've still got 360 cameras. You've still got your 3D view. So you've got your augmented reality style view. You've got your car wash mode, and you even have your backup assistant. So I put this on. It's going to remember how I got into somewhere if I had been recording, and then it'll take me out exactly how I got it. Super nice for tighter parking lots, especially if you don't want to ding your M3. You don't trust yourself going into reverse. But overall, the technology suite here, we've covered it in a number of BMWs now. It's just very good.
I will say one of the coolest things that it also comes with is some of the lane keep assist, driver assist features on the highway. Really good, and then also has auto lane change as well.
Yeah, so the auto lane change, you just kind of keep your hand somewhere on the steering wheel, indicate with a little half press, and then it'll automatically lane change for you. This is really nice, robust safety stuff to have on a performance car. Jinx. Let's get into price. The last thing we're going to talk about before we go for a bit of a drive is price. Now, an M3 competition starts at about $80,000. You can spend about $76,000 and go for a base M3, but if you're going for the comp, it's going to be about $80,000. Now, this one, as tested, is $105,000. That's adding in a bunch of stuff. You've also got $8,500 worth of brakes on here. You've got about $3,500 worth of paint, $2,500 worth of blue interior. So if you strip some of that back and go for a more normal spec, you can get a greatly spec'd out M3 for about $90,000. And if you compare that to something like a C63 AMG, which to be honest is a mess in and of itself, this is still going to be a lot cheaper. And the Audi RS5 starts at about the same money at $80,000. And the RS5 is going to get you that Sportback bigger trunk, and it's going to look a little bit better from the front, but this is so much more car dynamically. And if you're buying something like an RS5 or an M3 competition, don't you want something that's a little bit better dynamically? And I think that's probably a good time to get behind the wheel and take it for a drive. Oh, there's turbo right there. Oh, it's fast, man. It is so fast.
Yeah, it is blisteringly quick. Before we kind of jump into it and we talk about, you know, some of the other things that I want to talk about, really want to hear about the highlights on track, because you basically turned around the next day you got the car and took it there. I unfortunately wasn't able to join you. But yeah, just I guess kind of compare it to other things too that we've had up there. Yeah,
I'm looking back, it was kind of interesting because they dropped the car off like in a rainstorm. And it was rainstorming on both ends of the day, so I was like, man, I really hope it doesn't rain on Wednesday so I can actually take this thing to the track. So basically they dropped the car off, I pulled it into the garage, didn't touch it until I went up to the track. So some of my first impressions of this car were toward the limit. We got like an hour to go up to the track, but then like I was on it. And the things that really stood out is we back-to-backed it with my M340 and then this. So I drove my M340 first and then I got into this. And I'm not just gonna say everything was better in this car because, well, it is, but the things that really, really stood out were chassis, tires, and brakes. The chassis on this thing is shockingly put together. Like this thing is so dynamic. There's that technical section at the latter half of the lap where you're going that really hard left-hander and then immediately into that really hard right-hander. This thing handled its weight and just danced through that. I've never felt a car that we've taken around that track change direction in the way that this thing did. It just kept doing it. There was so much grip from the tires. There was no flex or roll from the chassis. The suspension was brilliant. And then the brakes. The brakes were so freaking good. Like lap after lap, I felt myself getting more confident in the car. I could push myself a little bit harder. And if you're not going to take the car to a track, maybe save yourself $8,500. Don't get the carbon ceramics. But if you are going to take it to the track and you are going to beat on it,
worth it.
A lot of money, but I think it might be worth it because they were just good. But you also took this thing on a road trip, so let's hear about what it's like to drive day to day.
Yeah, well, I guess just to touch on the same vein of spirited driving, like I did a little bit of that when I was up in the hills, the canyon of the hills.
The canyons of Wisconsin.
Yeah, the canyons of Wisconsin. And yeah, it's just shocking how well this thing is put together. The chassis rigidity, the brakes, and also the Spec, the gold calipers are just...
Dude.
I really like the way they look.
I love it. It's a shame they're $8,500.
I know, the price tag is
steep.
Is a tough number to look at. But yeah, I think the very first thing, though, I will say that I noticed is I missed the V8 twin turbo from the X6M right away. I missed the noises that it made. Well, and yeah, we're not even getting getting like great fuel economy in here, which is just pretty.
Fun fact: we're getting the same fuel economy in this
as the X6M.
As the X6M.
The 4.4 liter.
Hundreds of pounds heavier, 2 more cylinders, another 1.5 liters of engine, just big, less aerodynamic. Like, that's a selling point to the V8.
I know. Yeah. So no, seriously, it seriously is. But yeah, everything that you said, it's shockingly good. I think the biggest thing that I'd want to get across is just a lot of people think, you know, M3 versus M340 or whatever other car they're really comparing it to is like
the watered down one.
Yeah, the M3 is, oh well, that's more for like performance driving, and you're going to make sacrifices from like a day-to-day livability standpoint. Like I want the M340 because it kind of dances between the line of practicality and also performance.
Yeah, it's going to be more comfortable.
But I will say, having, you know, driven this thing 250 miles round trip to the lake, like you are not making a single compromise with this thing. It is extremely comfortable. 100%. The suspension is dialed in when it's in comfort or in sport. The driver assist features are incredible.
Dude,
the noise isolation in here is really, really good too. Like it checks the boxes on everything day-to-day practicality living.
That's exactly what my thought was going to be going into this. I was like, okay, it says competition on the back. It's going to be super harsh, and it's going to beat me up. And then I got in it, and we drove it at that hour up to the track, and I was like, oh, this rides as spec'd better than my M340 did with run flats on.
Yeah.
So if you have an M340, you don't have the adaptive dampers, and you have run flats on, your ride is worse than an M3 competition. So that is to say, you're not giving up anything in terms of ride quality. Like this does well. It does feel tight, but it does feel like solid and not crashy and not jarring over bumps.
Last point I'd say though is like this is probably the best sedan I think I've ever been in. Performance sedan.
Probably. So yeah, with that being said, thank you to everybody that's been involved this week. Thank you to BMW for letting us have a go on the car. Thank you to BMW for letting us take the car on track.
Yes.
And thank you to Road America for letting us use your Motorplex to do hot laps and really shake these things down. And thank you to you for watching. We'll see you in the next one.